Oh, that's coming.
Yes. You're gonna be in the world, like fully in the world. Bombs going off, running down a dirty street, hoping that this is not real life. That if you die, you're gonna respawn.
Yeah.
That's Westworld. Bullets are flying by, breaking the bricks behind your head. All that shit's Westworld. But Westworld is not.
And I mean, people just know that they were robots. They thought they were in the game.
Right.
They were robots. We're all robots.
It's gonna happen.
We're all one day. But AI is a robot.
ton of work. I didn't know we would be able to do it this quickly, is my surprise. And what that showed me was the people at the Bureau, literally people with a 30-year age that come up to me, you want to do this 15 years ago.
Really?
You want to do that 10 years ago. And then my question was like, you guys are the pros. Like, I'm just, my job as the director, I'm not chasing down bad guys. I don't know how to do that. Is to give them what you need to get the hell out of the way. And they were like, dude, all they did was give me away.
It's like what kind of stuff specifically did you start doing that they wanted to do 15 years ago?
Simple. The one that I've taken the biggest heat for. You know, when I said, hey, these are the statistics from the USG, so you can take them or leave them, right? I don't know where else to go because nobody else does it, right? In the last calendar year, not this one, year before last, 100,000 people were dying of drug overdoses. That's one every 7 minutes. A child or kid was being raped every 6.5 minutes in this country. And there were 2 homicides an hour in this country. And we have a 38,000 person workforce. And I said, okay, where are the agents? Where are info at? Where is it? We have 55 field offices. We got 300 what we call RAs, resident agencies. So satellite offices to field offices in major cities. And they said, well, we've got 11,000 FBI employees in what we call the NCR, the National Capital Region. So if you take DC and you do a 50-mile radius around it, 11,000, almost a third of the workforce work there. I said, what the hell are they doing there? They said, well, they mandated if you want a promotion, if you want to move up, you come back here, clarify stuff here. So I said, look, we're moving agents into the field. That's what I did. 1,500 people are going to the field because a third of the crime doesn't happen in Washington, D.C. and the 65 miles around it. And everybody was like, we've been wanting to do this forever. I mean, just think about it. One agent out in Indian country, one agent out in Texas, Arkansas, Washington State prevents a homicide, conducts a major drug bust, stops a ton of fentanyl or meth from coming into our country. One agent can do that. And the agents that I talk to now from around the country are just stoked.
That's awesome. That's great news. That really is great news because the fentanyl thing scares the shit out of me. It really does.
Well, it's one of the things I want to hammer down on, but whenever you want to get into that.
Yeah, please. Yeah. It's so terrifying because, you know, we've shown it on the podcast, the amount that'll kill you.
Yeah.
It's so small. It's like the tip of a pencil.
Yeah, it's like point something millimeters. It's nothing. I'll give you. I put this big program. I love doing this long form stuff, and this is the only long form interview I'm going to do. I hope you know.
Oh, thank you.
I do one interview. I do one interview a month. One, and it's usually like a 5-minute TV thing, just to keep it fresh. Do a lot of stuff on social media, but I've been looking forward to this for a long time. Even when I was on the campaign, I was just this is like the best way to get information. So fentanyl, right? Everybody's like, how do you attack fentanyl? How do you stop this stuff? Okay, yes, let's go after the narco terrorists down in Mexico. 100%. You got to go after the cartels, the drug trafficking organization. You got to shore up the southern border. The president has done an amazing job with both of those things, made it a priority. So we have decreased the amount of fentanyl being moved around, let's say, right? But not necessarily coming into the United States. So where's the root of the problem? The CCP. So the fentanyl precursors, the stuff you need to make fentanyl, comes from mainland China. That's it. Now, I'm sure like 1% of it comes from somewhere else in the world, but that's where it comes. They've got hundreds of companies standing up in mainland China, shipping this stuff out into the world. Now, their cover is that fentanyl has, and it does have a legitimate lawful purpose in terms of an anesthetic or medical use for anesthesiology-related stuff, okay? So there's like a minimal use for it. And what the CCP has done is they've come out and said, this is like the biggest, like, talk about the devil pulling the wool over the world's eyes. They're like, we don't make fentanyl. They're right, they don't. They just give you all the ingredients for it and ship it to Mexico. And then what they did was, to trick the world, they came out and said, hey, we're going to not sell precursor X. They're like, so now we're out of the fentanyl trade entirely. The problem is, there's 14 other precursors you can use to make fentanyl, and they're still shipping all of those. So what we did when I got to the Bureau is we stood up this massive enterprise to go after fentanyl precursor companies in mainland China. That's probably not going to like that. And what they're doing now to get cute is they're shipping that stuff not straight to here. They're going to places like India, and I'm also doing operations in India. And they're having the Mexican cartels now make this fentanyl down in Mexico still. You know, instead of going right up the southern border and into America, you know what they're doing? They're flying it into Vancouver. They're taking the precursors up to Canada, manufacturing it up there, and doing the global distribution routes from up there because we were been so effective down south. Yeah, it's a huge lift, but part of it is Americans just don't understand the depth and depravity of fentanyl. But what's worse is fentanyl. You don't hear fentanyl deaths in China. You don't hear fentanyl deaths in India. You don't really hear fentanyl deaths in England, Australia, New Zealand, or Five Eyes partners in Canada. The Chinese, in my opinion, the CCP, have used it as directed approach because we are their adversary. They don't like us, and we don't like what they're doing when it comes to fentanyl. And their long-term game is this. How do I, in my opinion, kneecap the United States of America, our largest adversary? Well, why don't we go and take out generations of young men and women who might grow up to serve in the United States military, or become a cop, or become a teacher? And that's what they're doing when you wipe out tens of thousands of Americans a year. It's a long-term plan for them.
That is such a dark thing.
It is, but we're on it.
Summer savings are here at Going Gone by Dick's Sporting Goods. Find store near you and save big at Going Gone.
What else could be done, like with the Chinese companies? I mean, has there ever been any negotiation with Xi Jinping, with the United States, like where you could lighten up tariffs or do something and make some sort of a deal? Or is it just so profitable for them that they're going to do it no matter what if they can?
Here's the thing. They're not making a ton of money off of it. Right?
So it's really just for
Right.
them purpose.
You could sell fentanyl precursors, and unless you jacked up the price to exorbitant amounts of money, they're not making a ton of money. And so it's an all-of-government approach. So I'm working with guys like the Secretary of Treasury to do sanctions on some of these companies, right? Then I'm working with our Five Eyes partners, and our Five Eyes are the 5 English-speaking countries in the world: Canada, America, England, New Zealand, and Australia. Right? We share intelligence, we share classified intelligence on this stuff. So I'm asking them. I said, hey, it's not just affecting us; it will affect you and your population. The CCP just hasn't directed it at you yet, and they know that. And I said, guys, I need your help. I'm looking at intelligence reporting that shows fentanyl precursors are now in your country. The fentanyl itself isn't being deployed into your country, but it's there being manufactured. So I'm asking for their help to shut down those factories and production facilities. And I'm asking the Mexican government's help to come and say, hey, your drug trafficking organizations are now exporting and manufacturing the fentanyl and getting creative in the ways in which they obtain fentanyl precursors. So they'll say, oh, we didn't get it from China, we got it from India, we got it from, wherever. And it's too cute by half. It's not like there's been a reduction in the amount of fentanyl precursors that mainland China produces. What there has been a reduction in is President Trump's administration's aggressive approach to just crush the fentanyl trafficking. And unfortunately, our adversaries adapt. We're so good down south on the border here, and we're so good in Mexico that they're moving in us. But we're going to get them. I promise you. I promise the president and the American people, we will not have kids dying of fentanyl overdoses in our streets. Just give me a little bit more time. We have a massive operation going on around the world on this.
Well, that's great news. It's great to hear. So, the fentanyl, a lot of it is, it's not just fentanyl overdoses, right? It's opiate overdoses overall. How much is a lot of it because people get hooked on pills, and then they want more, and then they can buy black market pills, and those are the ones that have fentanyl in it, or is it Molly and things like that that have been laced with fentanyl?
So, great question. Nobody asked these questions. That's probably why your show's number one. They are so demonic in their ways. They're like, we'll make fentanyl, and people can go use fentanyl and get killed on fentanyl. Then what they do is they manufacture, as part of this, if they being the drug trafficking organization, once they get the precursors of the CCP, they take their pill presses and they make fake oxycodone. So like literally, I'll just give you an example. Make tens of thousands of pills of fake oxycodone, and we busted it. And in that fake pill is fentanyl. It's laced with fentanyl that kills people. Then the drug trafficking organizations, to make it appealing for the youth, shape this illicit narcotic in the form of like candy, gummy bears. So you hear about kids in New York who just happen to have like a trace amount touching it somewhere, also dying from it. So they have absolutely no rules or boundaries whatsoever when it comes to how they deploy fentanyl to get into our population. It could be through another drug, it could be through a synthetic, it could be through a fake drug, or it could be like, hey, and we've seized it, thousands of pounds of material that looks like candy.
Are they doing it specifically to try to get people to overdose on candy, or are they selling this candy as a drug?
They're selling this drug.
Okay. Then they're just saying it looks like candy.
It just looks appealing to kids, right? Like, so inner city youth, they're like, hey, put a pill down on the table, put a gummy bear down on the table, you know, a younger person can be like, no, that's cool. You can try that. I mean, I can tell you stories from now until the entire show about high school kids on the verge of graduating, and they went out and took a pill that they thought was, you know, an upper, but it happened to be laced with fentanyl. They died. Their parents are calling. They're destroyed. And people are like, well, we got to go after the drug traffickers. I'm like, we do and we are. But what my job is to educate the American public on the root cause of this fentanyl that is destroying our society. And it's the fentanyl precursors. I literally just got off the phone with the Indian government. I said, I need your help. This stuff's coming into your country, and then they're moving it from your country because India is not consuming fentanyl. They're not. No one's dying over there from fentanyl. But I need you and your help. So my FBI's over there working with the heads of their government, law enforcement authorities, to say, we're going to find these companies that buy it, and we're going to shut them down. We're going to sanction them. We're going to arrest them where we can. We're going to indict them in America if we can. We're going to indict them in India if we can. Start indicting in places like Canada and the UK and England and Australia. This is a global problem. And the reason it's gotten so bad is because nobody did anything for 4 years. You know, people are like, how do they stand this up? Well, if you give the CCP, who has an endless amount of money to deploy human capital, that's what happens to metastasizes.
Why didn't anybody do anything for 4 years? Have you been able to figure that out?
Look, to me, I'm a national security guy, and anything that kills 100,000 people a year is a national security crisis, right? It's what we call a tier 1 threat. And the last administration did not classify the drug trafficking enterprise as a prime threat against the American people. And so what happens is you reorient the system of intelligence collection operations. I mean, I'm not making this up. They said climate change is our biggest priority. DEI is our biggest priority. I mean, you guys have heard this. You guys have something to say. But these are the ramifications in real life. I only have X amount of people that can target something, right? Same with the CIA, same with the DOD. But if the United States government, Uncle Sam and their commander-in-chief said, hey, I need your X amount of people looking here, I can't clone that army to look back at fentanyl.
Right.
Plus, we have to follow the chain of command.
It's so crazy that they would say climate change and DEI were the priorities for the FBI.
Well, for the government.
For the government in total.
So I'll give you a better example. So I was, at the end of the last Trump administration, I was chief of staff of the Department of Defense. One of the greatest jobs. At the time, I thought the greatest job I'd ever had. And when we left, we said, hey, you know, Iran's a huge threat. We got to never let up on the counterterrorism mission. We still have hostages out there we got to find and bring home. And the narcotics mission is a big priority. We handed off our playbook and we said, look, this is not a political issue. This is protecting the American people and our allies. So we hope you guys continue this effort. So the DOD has this thing called CONOPS, Concept of Operations. The Department of Defense has 3 million employees. And a CONOP is how you move the machine of the Department of Defense. Hey, we have a threat in Indo-PACOM. How many carrier routes are we sending down there? We got a threat with government X. What are we doing operationally, kinetically? What are we doing intelligence collection? That's a CONOP. The first concept of operation the Biden administration launched at the Department of Defense was on climate change. You can't make this shit up.
What do you think that's all about? like as an outsider, as someone like looking at it, going, I just don't understand. Like, where's the profit in this? Like, what's the motive? Like, what would incentivize all these people to get on board with it without someone logically stepping in and saying, hey, this is not our top priority?
You can't shut your iPhone off.
Oh, I know.
It's always listening. It's always pinging towers. It's always pinging Wi-Fi. Building a digital brick.
I think at its... So that was something I tried to answer when I was out of government for the last 4 years before I took this job. And the answer lay in the first Trump term. We were doing things so effectively on national security that hadn't been done before in such speed and volume that the media hated us for it because the other party had tried to do it and failed. And
Like,
so,
what things specifically?
so when it comes to, okay, hostages, I can talk about that forever too. Used to be, counterterrorism was a big portfolio. I ran it for the White House and National Security Council in the first Trump administration. We brought home, people don't know this, President Trump in his first term brought home and rescued over 50 hostages and detainees from around the world. That's more than every president before him combined. Wow. Did you hear about the successes of reuniting families with lost loved ones from Africa and the Middle East, or these operations that the president was courageous enough to greenlight to go into places like Afghanistan and do these hostage rescue ops and use SEAL Team 6 and Delta, or take out guys like Baghdadi and Soleimani? President Trump's directive was simple. We are going to protect the homeland. We're not going to endanger the lives of our armed forces and our intelligence community, but their job is to protect the homeland. And he said go, and we went. And I think there was such a resounding success that the media had such a hatred for President Trump and his administration. They just said, one, we're not going to give you the credit. Two, we're going to put out a ton of disinformation, which we can get into. And three, when they came time to transition governments from Trump to Biden, they just said, we're not going to do, and this is my opinion, we're not going to do any of the stuff that worked because then we'll have to attribute it to Trump's policies. So we're going to go off on our own. And I keep asking people to prove me wrong. Like, tell me something you did in that administration that carried out the apolitical national security mission to a T. But I mean, you had the Secretary of Defense in the Biden administration go down, go to a hospital, MIA, literally AWOL, and didn't tell the commander-in-chief and broke the National Command Authority. There is a reason, and I was a guy responsible for that nuclear football for part of my time at the White House, that thing, and there's an unbroken chain of command between the President of the United States, the Secretary of Defense, and the National Command Authority all the time, because shit happened. And what if it had happened in that 1 or 2 weeks the guy was in the hospital, and maybe something did, we don't even know, right? But no one, including the President, didn't know the Secretary of Defense was in the hospital. I can't tell you how big of a cataclysmic failure for the national security mission that is. And what I tell people when they're like, it's all right, it's not that big of a deal. What if Hegseth took a week out? He said, I'm going to the hospital, I'm not telling you. What do you think the media would do to that guy? And Trump, if that were to happen?
Yeah, it would be catastrophic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this person went to the hospital for what? What was the... No. No letter over there?
Oh, yeah, sure.
What were they in the hospital for?
So Secretary Austin is in the hospital for medical issues, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have
Right, but there
treatment.
should be someone else that's...
There's a plan in place.
Right.
The Deputy Secretary of Defense comes in, every time a senior goes out, there's a
Right.
continuity of government plan in place. So you're out for a week, get treatment, no problem.
But they just hid all this?
They hit it.
That's insane.
And we broke it. We discovered it, and we broke it. And it wasn't the only time he did it. It was the second time where the guy would end up doing it another time.
Why would they do that? Just to hide the fact that they're sick?
Well, that I think is up for debate. Like, people are old and they get sick. Like, no
Right.
big deal. Everybody needs treatment. Everybody's got to go to Walter Reed.
But do you think that he thought it would hurt him politically if he looked weak?
I'm not. Yeah, I don't know.
Speculation.
Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that.
Right.
And the secretary at the time, Secretary Lloyd Austin, was like a 45-year military. It's not like this was new to him.
Right.
He'd been doing it his whole life. Next man up.
So he had made a decision to try to keep it private.
Intentionally, and he would come out later to say, well, I just wanted to keep it private. And I said, hey man, your life when you're the Secretary of Defense, Director of the FBI, Director of the CIA, it ain't about being private. That's gone. You signed up to serve the mission. And when you do that knowingly, you have literally violated the National Command Report.
Let's talk salary.
Great. What do you typically offer for this role?
It's competitive.
And if it was a number, it would be...
A competitive number. With Indeed, you can avoid awkward salary conversations from the start.
Well, a number.
Is it competitive?
I'm coming in fast. First place, you coming in last. I'm in that bag. I'm in that loud. Emotion. We causing a commotion. I put it in.
Oh my God.
Wow. So you were saying there's a bunch of misinformation that was put out, or disinformation. Like, what was that?
Ooh, so my thing is all roads lead to Russia, right? That's
Right.
where it all started. I was coming out of my tour at JSOC as a civilian and DOJ, and I would end up going to Congress to run this thing called Russiagate, which at the time, no one knew anything. It was just a whatever. And then it became what it became. And I would be the guy, the lead investigator on the Hill who said, hey man, look, they lied in the FISA application. Let me give you Russiagate in 96.
Okay.
Could you imagine a time in the United States of America in the 21st century where a political party would go overseas and acquire fake foreign intelligence from a foreign intelligence office funded by donations to that political party in the United States of America, then take that material, package it, walk it to the FBI, literally, and say, hey, we need you to surveil the opponent of our political party who happens to be running for the President of the United States, then convince the FBI to go into a secret federal FISA court that I used to use to manhunt terrorists and say, hey, I need you to wiretap, essentially, all the comms in and around Trump camp because of the material we gave you, and then have that FBI lie to the federal court and the judge in that warrant application, which is a felony, and intentionally remove information of innocence from that application just to get it above the threshold so the judge would sign it. That's Russiagate. That's what they did. And you remember the years and years of reporting surrounding Russiagate. The FBI would never lie. They would never do that. The leadership there is above reproach. James Comey, Andy McCabe, Peter Strzok. The list goes on. We caught him red-handed. We caught him. You've seen the text messages. You've seen the documentation. You've seen the reports. But when I did that, when I exposed that initially as a staffer on the Hill, Adam Schiff comes out and has his cronies leak to the world that I am acting as a genocidal dictator. There was actually an article that called me...
Genocidal.
Hang on, it gets better.
Dictator.
Yeah, no, it gets better.
How do you get to be a dictator?
I don't know. Genocidal one alone, right? Like, you know, it's a twofer.
His words don't even mean anything anymore.
No, literally, there's an article out there that they called me Torquemada, the guy from the Spanish Inquisition.
Jesus Christ.
And I was a staffer, so the rule was you can ding elected representatives all you want in the media. You don't touch staffers. They didn't care because they knew what I had unearthed was the biggest political criminal scheme ever perpetrated by portions of the FBI leadership and other people in the intelligence community.
In coordination with me.
In coordination. And
Who
that's...
could have investigated it.
But hang on, that's the kicker. So what people don't know about Russiagate that weren't paying attention was that warrant that initially kicked off the FISA surveillance on the Trump campaign writ large was substantiated by FBI leaks to the media. Two of the articles cited in that warrant from, I think, Mother Jones and Yahoo News were leaks of information from the same leadership at the FBI, Peter Strzok, Andy McCabe, James Comey and company. And then they, in the application, would be like, hey, it's not just us saying that Trump's a Russian asset, right? Look at this article, Mr. Judge, on the federal FISA court. And they included it in that application. So this was a coordinated conspiracy to take down your political opponent by weaponizing government. And now, I say that now in 2025. When I said that in 2017, whatever it was, people were like, you're out of your effing mind. And I was like, look, man, I'm just showing you the facts. I'm not making this up. I'm showing you the application. I'm showing you the documentation. And that's when they came after me. And it hasn't stopped ever since. But the damage they did, they, the media, and the people that wanted to take out Trump, And I didn't care what you thought about. And remember, back then, I had met Trump, never spoken to him, didn't know him. I took that job in Congress on one condition. I said, whatever we find, we're putting in. I'd been in for 16 years at that point. Democrats, Republicans. I was a national security guy, intel guy. That's what I wanted to do. Chase terrorists, chase bad guys, bring hostages home, and help protect the homeland. And I said, I didn't know if Trump did this. I didn't know if he was colluding with whoever. I didn't know it would turn out like this, that they would actually manufacture and make it up. But half of America to this day still believes the narrative that the CNNs of the world pushed for 5 years. And if you look on their shows now, Russiagate keeps coming back up because we keep exposing the documents that showed how bad these guys were. And most Americans are like, nah, they're already convinced. So in order to fix that diseased temple, it is just that much harder to lift for me to go back into the FBI. We're going to get it done. But it takes so much more communication and so much more energy to get after the American people and say you were lied to. Because that's the hardest thing I think people can ever admit to themselves.
Right.
You were lied to. I went out for years and created a life cycle out of this lie of Russiagate. I went on TV, I made money, I wrote books, I sold political advertisements based on it. I educated my children based on it because I thought it was the truth. And some of them have come back and said, yeah, we got it wrong. But most haven't. And that's the disinformation seed, in my opinion, that started it all. And then you could talk about things like January 6th or, pick your poison, rescuing hostages, what have you. The media just never got on board. They kneecapped Trump from the beginning by participating in the Russiagate collusion conspiracy with the FBI.
It's so crazy that someone could do something like that, and a whole enormous group of people could do something like that with no repercussions. And to be able to operate and, say they're the trusted source of news, and you were a part of something that was one of the biggest scandals in political history. But just because it's targeted towards Trump, people look the other way. Like, if that was targeted towards Obama, could you imagine how psychotic the response would be? People would be up in arms and furious. But the same people that would be up in arms and furious if somebody tried to do that for Obama are completely silent if it's happening to Trump.
Yeah, just think about it. What if me, as the FBI director in the Trump administration, right, during a presidential cycle, went out there and said, hey, Republican National Committee, do you guys have dirt on whoever's running for the Democratic nomination to be president of the United States? If you don't, can you go overseas and pay a foreign national who used to be an MI6 guy, get me some bogus intel? Then I, as the FBI director, will authorize a warrant. I'll leak to the media while I'm doing it, take their articles, put it in that warrant, and then go surveil the opponent so he doesn't get elected. I would be in prison, which I should be for doing anything.
Crazy.
And that's what people want accountability for. And that's what you asked me at the beginning of the show, what's the hardest part? I'm like, hey, I'm the guy that is exposing and giving you the accountability from 2017 onward. But I wasn't the guy in charge of putting people in prison and arresting them for this conduct. And so the other education campaign I have to go on is there's this thing called the statute of limitations. I can't prosecute people for their crimes in the past if the statute of limitations is wrong. And I'll give you a great example that goes right back to Russiagate. So one of the big systems I've created, maybe because of my time in Russiagate, is I'm committed to congressional oversight. I'm committed to giving Congress the documents they need to do their work and give it to the American people. Unredacted, no classification of BS. You want it, you get it. So we just think about this. Me, as director of the FBI, the former Russiagate guy, when I first got to the Bureau, found a room that Comey and others hid from the world in the Hoover building, full of documents and computer hard drives that no one had ever seen or heard of. Locked the key and hid access and just said, no one's ever going to find this place.
What?
Yeah. So my guys are going through that right now.
What's in there?
A lot of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. People are like, well, okay, go arrest him. And I'm like, okay, well, how about you let me run a methodical investigation while I give over information? One of the things we gave over before this, the room deal was I don't know if you remember who Nellie Orr is. It doesn't really matter. Nellie Orr's husband, Bruce Orr, was like the number 4 at the Department of Justice, and he was the one who introduced the world of Christopher Steele, the guy that started Russiagate. Well, the entire time her husband was doing that at DOJ, she, Nellie Orr, was working on an outside contract to dig up dirt on Donald Trump. So she goes to the Hill and testifies as a result of our investigation right under oath. She said, I never worked, and I'm paraphrasing, I never worked with my husband on any of that. I would never do that. Well, what did Grassley put out just yesterday? 2 days ago? The Nellie Orr documentation that the FBI hid to the world, that we gave them, where Nellie Orr is caught red-handed providing information to her husband, thumb drives related to Trump-Russia collusion, directly proving that Nellie Orr lied to Congress. Felony. Can't prosecute her. Statute of limitations. It's just one example.
Wow. What a dirty business.
Yeah, Andy.
Politics is just the dirtiest. And in this age of transparency, because of, the internet, social media, and independent news, like, everybody knows about it now. Like, if CNN and, and all these left-wing news sources, MSNBC, and it was only Fox on the right, and that was all we had, and we had no internet, all this would be completely secret. No one would have known. The Russiagate collusion, all that stuff would be, people would really think it's a true story. It would probably take decades before someone wrote a book where people started to really take it seriously and really realize that there was something fucked up about it.
Yeah. I'm not allowed to plug my book, so I won't, but I did write
You can plug your book. Why can't you plug your book?
There's some rules on it about
I can plug your book. What's your book? Give it to me.
Here you go. This one's for you anyway. Government Gangsters.
Oh, Government Gangsters by Cash Patel. Go buy it. Plugged. You didn't plug it. I did.
I love it.
Did you do the audio?
Yeah.
You read it?
Oh, I got somebody to do it. My voice is not for radio or
Oh,
TV.
come on, man. You got a great voice.
I appreciate that. It's taken time and a lot of cigars to get to here.
It would be good for you to read it. They should let you read it.
Well, I mean, what's in there, but the reason I wrote it is, one, I never thought I was going back into government service, and two, part of the job to completing the mission was exposing what people didn't ever think could happen in the United States of America. And it was not just disinformation, misinformation, but your government, leaders in government, weaponizing it for political purposes, not just FBI and DOJ, but others, the IC. And what it shows you is the back end of that, too. The reward, right? The guys that, wrapping it back up, or reversing it back up, the guys that were in charge of Russiagate at the FBI, Andy McCabe, right? Remember what this guy did. Andy McCabe agreed to set in motion a plan with the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein at the time to have him wear a wire into the Oval Office to record President Trump. Those documents we found, we released. Put that aside. While Andy McCabe was in charge of the Trump-Russia Gate collusion investigation, his wife was running for political office in the state of Virginia. Do you know who's funding her campaign for political office between $600,000? Hillary Clinton, who happened to be running against Donald Trump. Do you know what Andy McCabe did? He leaked information about the Clinton investigation to the media. Unlawfully. As the deputy director of the FBI. Got caught by us. Then lied about it to federal authorities. And that's the reason Andy McCabe was dismissed. Do you know what the Biden administration did? They allowed him to retire out of the FBI with full benefits. He got rewarded. You know what he does now? He's on CNN. You know who's also on CNN? Peter Strzok, the head of the counterintelligence unit that had that affair with Lisa Page, who basically put out those text messages, who was running that investigation with Andy McCabe and said, Trump people smell in Walmart and we're never going to let him win. I have an insurance policy. That guy's on CNN. So they get rewarded for putting on this disinformation campaign, for this illegal activity, because the media will never correct, or some portion of the media will never correct the record. Remember, these guys got Pulitzer, New York Times, same thing. These guys got the biggest award in journalism. They were proven wrong, not by me, by the own evidence created by, you know how I caught these guys? Because these guys were so arrogant, they would write everything down. And I found the documents.
Why would they write everything down?
They're so arrogant. They think no one's going to catch us. I'm going to write everything down. We're going to put it in a lockbox. We're going to put it in a vault, and no one's going to find it. Well, you know what? I found the vault, and now I'm going to work.
Wow. Now, is there a statute of limitations on those crimes?
So generally, the statute of limitations on crimes for process crimes that we call them is 5 years. But if you can tie them to an overarching conspiracy, there is no statute of limitations. So if there was more egregious conduct that no one knew about before, that we are just finding and we are investigating, then we'll have to relook at it. The one thing we will do is put out all that information to the American public once we actually get through it. And we'll give it to Congress. And if we can work with our partners at DOJ to come up with a prosecution, that'll be their decision, we'll do it.
The disturbing thing about all this to me is how people on the left are willing to look the other way. Because this isn't just a dangerous precedent. If the federal government is doing this, and they're doing this to someone that you consider an enemy, what's to stop this from doing it against your candidate? Like, this is unprecedented behavior that's tolerated and coordinated with the media. Like, that's dangerous for the country. But people are so ideologically captured. They're so locked into their party, and by any means necessary, we got to get Trump out. And they push that narrative so hard that they're willing to do a very un-American thing.
Yeah. And my goal, now that I'm back in government, is to make sure this doesn't happen again ever. That's the goal.
How can you do that? How can you make sure it doesn't happen again ever?
Exposing it all. And I know there are people, and look, people keep calling me and saying, when are you going to arrest everyone? When are you going to go out there and arrest everybody that did everything to Donald Trump? I was like, first of all, you guys were barking at people who were in before me, and they didn't. You failed. The difference between me and that guy is, one, I'm the guy that exposed it. Two, I didn't tell you this, I was the guy they targeted. So while I was doing the Russiagate investigation, do you know what Trump's own DOJ, Rod Rosenstein, the Deputy Attorney General, Department of Justice, Christopher Wray, then Director of the FBI, did to me and a dozen other staffers who were working Russiagate? They subpoenaed all of our information while I was running the Russiagate investigation. We wouldn't find out for 5 years. You want to know why? Because these guys were so vindictive, they went to the federal court, not only got a search warrant, they got a judge to say to all the telecom companies, Google, Facebook, everybody else, your banking companies, everybody, do not tell them for 5 years that we authorized this subpoena. So I just found that out last year.
Wow.
This is how hard, this is what I'm trying to show. It's not a Republican or Democrat thing, right? It's an all-hands-on approach to protect the leadership that was so corrupt, to protect themselves and their actions and their friends. My mission is to educate the world that this happened. And as Director of the FBI, I have a responsibility. I'm not just going to bring a case because somebody brought it. They did, and they continue to do it. Shit, my house just got swatted yesterday.
What?
Yeah, but...
You got swatted?
Oh, yeah.
The head of the FBI
Wow.
gets swatted?
Yeah. Yeah. These people play, it's the ultimate
Wow.
height of hypocrisy. They have two sets of rules. One against you, and one for them. And what I want to do is lay out that
That is
entire
kinda
body
crazy.
of work for the American people with Congress. And I'm doing it with guys like Grassley, and Jordan, and Kennedy, and Rand Paul on COVID-19, and we can talk about the origins. We actually have some pretty cool developments on that front. And let the American people know that my mission has always been to put out the truth, whatever the consequence. Whoever it's against, like I did when I signed up for Russiagate. Donald Trump was a Russian asset and I proved it. I was telling the world that. That's what matters. And if we can hold people accountable in terms of indictments, then we'll work with our partners at DOJ. But what I'm asking people is don't trust me. I don't care about that. Look at what I have done and what we have done. That's the guy that's now in charge of the FBI. His leadership team is in place. We've got great partners at DOJ. We're the ones working on all this stuff. And look, let's just get to it because I know it's on people's minds. Epstein, right? The reason people are pissed off about that is the same same thing, right? 20 years ago, or whenever it was, 2006, 7, 8, Epstein gets his sweetheart plea deal, right? After committing the most horrific crimes on planet Earth, right? I wasn't in power there. I wasn't in place there. I had, nothing to do with it. But people were rightfully pissed that this guy was committing the most grotesque acts you can against children. And the media spins up about it. Many in the media protect him. Why? Because of his relationships, who he knew, who his bankers were, who his colleagues were, who was on the island, and stuff like that. It's a pretty powerful human being. And so when you peel back the layer, and then what happened? Trump administration, the last go around, decided, no, we're not going to let that go. We're going to investigate, right? They charged him with the guy, and he's awaiting trial. And I've said it, Dan Bongino said, we've reviewed all the information, and the American public is going to get as much as we can release. He killed himself. Do you think, let's play out the logical conclusion of this, do you think that myself, Bongino, and others would participate in hiding information about Epstein's grotesque activities, or do you think we would also participate in not prosecuting people we had evidence to prosecute people on? So the problem is there's been like 15 years of people coming in and creating fiction about this that doesn't exist. Where's the videotape of an Epstein Island of X, Y, and Z committing these crimes? Why haven't you given it to me? Do you really think I wouldn't give that to you if it existed? I'm working my ass off, along with the leadership at the Bureau and DOJ, to get you what we're allowed to give you. And you're going to get the video of the cell. And you're going to see for yourself. And we will never be able to convince everyone.
Okay, let's get into that. So,
Is working hard to manage my brain one big nope? It may be time to say yes to Vyepti.
what did you think before you got in office? Did you think that Epstein was murdered?
No.
No suspicion of all of it?
But I have a different background, right?
Right.
So I was a public defender back in the day. I used to spend a lot of time in jails and a lot of time in segregated housing shoes, as we call them, right? And so, and I've known people that have committed suicide in these cells. And I know how you get in, how you get out, who works the system. And so the way, based on public information at the time, that he ended up putting the pictures and him hanging himself, I was like, yeah, that guy killed himself. There's just no way that you could have run an op and had people go into that cell and not have any video of it and not have any people come out and say, hey, yeah, I saw that guy, he shouldn't have been there, the guard or this guy. There's just no access points into places like this in the detention center he was in, which I think.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but what I was told, what I'd read, was that the guards were not paying attention or were sleeping.
Well,
right?
Yeah, and in short order, you'll see it.
Is that correct?
Well, it's hard to surmise that from a video, right? Like,
right.
Where they and look, do guards doze off on the night shift? Yeah. But no one can get in to the cell. And if they had gotten in to the cell, you would see it.
But we were told that the cameras were down.
Well, I don't know who said that.
But that was in the news.
We're giving you all the footage we have.
So why wasn't that released like immediately? Why did this speculation escalate?
I think you'd have to ask whoever the Attorney General back then was, Bill Barr.
Did you ever see? Do you remember that HBO autopsy show? Dr. Michael Baden. He's a famous forensic scientist. So he's a pathologist, and he reviewed the case, and it was his determination that it was a homicide because of the way his neck was broken. And what he said was it was indicative of a ligature strangulation, and it was because of the positioning on the neck where the marks were that it wasn't indicative of someone hanging by their weight, which had been higher on the chin. And there's a specific break of the bones and the vertebrae that's consistent with someone who was just strangled to death.
I haven't seen it. I'll definitely take a look at it because that's part of my job.
You haven't seen that?
The report on
Yeah.
that? No, I haven't looked at that.
Did you see any? Was there any other autopsy done other than the official one?
Not to my knowledge, but if there was, you'll get it. And that's what we're doing.
See if you can find that Dr. Michael Baden thing.
Yeah. No.
Do you remember that show, the HBO show?
No.
Pretty cool show. So this guy, Dr. Michael Baden, he had a long career of catching murderers, exhuming bodies, finding trace amounts of poisons, different kinds of things, and it was a crazy show, like all these wild ways.
Well, I love watching shows. I spend a lot of time on planes.
Yeah, it was an old show. It was a show like from the early 2000s, I believe. But this guy was, was very well-respected forensic scientist who would analyze these bodies, and it was his determination that he was murdered.
Yeah. And my job, going back to the core of what I've been doing since I started rushing it, was to get and
Right.
is to get everybody the information.
When did you get here? Epstein's autopsy points to homicide. Pathologist hired by brother claims. New York City medical examiner strongly disputed the claim that the evidence from the autopsy suggested strangulation. So let's go to, by the way, this is the New York Times and they never lie. The private pathologist, Dr. Michael Baden, said the morning TV show Fox and Friends Mr. Epstein experienced a number of injuries, among them a broken bone in his neck, that are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation. I think the evidence points to homicide rather than suicide, said Dr. Baden, who observed the autopsy done by city officials. Dr. Baden, a former New York City medical examiner and a Fox News contributor, said, I have not seen in 50 years where that occurred in suicidal hanging case. Findings by Dr. Baden were strongly disputed by the city's chief medical examiner, Dr. Barbara Sampson, who previously ruled Mr. Epstein's death on August 10th. The Metropolitan Correctional Center was a suicide. I stand firmly behind our determination of the cause and manner of death in this case, Dr. Sampson said in the interview on Wednesday. She added, in general, fractures of the hyoid bone and cartilage can be seen in suicides and homicides. The hyoid bone is near the Adam's apple. Dr. Sampson also dismissed Dr. Baden's circumstances around Mr. Epstein's death suggests other people may have been involved. He said her office had done an investigation, taking into consideration information gathered by law enforcement.
So this is a perfect example of going back to my public defender and prosecutor days. This is what we call a war of experts. You will always find someone to come in and say the opposite. And I used to do it all the time. I mean, I represented the worst humans you could possibly imagine. Literally, the guys that were trafficking children from Mexico into America. And you could put up a professional expert to say, and this is what's going to go on forever. And my job is not the forever. My job is to get you absolutely everything that we can give you. And that's what we're going to do.
When did you become aware of this video that showed that no one had gone in and out of the cell?
Recently.
So why was it recent, though? I mean, if this death was, how long ago was this death? 2 years?
Couple.
2019? Oh, really? Long time plus. So, 6 years.
Summer savings are here at Going Gone by Dick's Sporting Goods. Find store near you and save big at Going Gone.
The only people that I go to
Extreme
Well, yeah,
Central
that's part of
Band.
what I'm going to try to answer for you.
Jeffrey Epstein jail CCTV erased by technical errors. Whoopsies.
Yeah.
But you see how anybody on the outside, I mean, this is like a perfect storm.
Yeah.
For some
Extreme
people that article up
Central
to
Band.
it says, Jimmy. U.S. prosecutor said the jail mistakenly saved footage from the wrong cell. Sorry. Epstein, a convicted sex offender, first tried to kill himself in July last year. Hanged himself in jail. Yep.
Reread that line.
That he first tried to kill himself in July of last
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
How much of the American public do you think knows that?
I didn't know that until right now.
There you go.
Maybe I heard it and forgot, but do you ever hear it, Jaden?
That's why he's on suicide watch. I think.
Oh, okay.
So a guy,
Hanged himself in jail in August while serving trial on federal sex trafficking charge. He pleaded not guilty to abusing dozens of girls, some as young as 14. Soon after Epstein's death in August, two of the CCTV cameras outside his cell had malfunctioned and were being examined by the FBI. Found semi-conscious in his prison cell with injuries on his neck on 25 of July after this incident was placed on suicide watch.
I'm not saying every single camera in the place is working. I'm saying we've got footage, you're getting it. And then you can make up your own mind. And
Right.
the theories can continue. But my job,
So you became aware of this footage recently?
the ones that we're looking at, yeah.
Right. And so, but this is like an article from quite a while ago that was saying that the footage was mistakenly erased.
Look, I mean, it goes back to the same Ask the people that were in power then. I mean, I get it that you want to hold me to account for their actions, and
No, I'm not
you,
saying.
not you,
I'm not saying that.
not you, just the public in general. That's okay.
What's confusing to everybody today, first of all, it's very confusing because AI can kind of make anything. You know, which has got to be a bizarre position for you to be in when you're looking at videos. I mean, I've watched Viking videos look real as fuck, you know? They just make Viking towns. I mean, it's really quite incredible what they're doing now, and it accelerates every month. I mean, I talked to people on about it, they said we're blown away literally every week. Every week there's some new breakthrough. Like, wow, we didn't expect that.
Well, I can tell you after having looked at it, this ain't gonna be AI.
You don't think so?
You're gonna. It's just not great. You know, it's like if it were AI, like someone wanted to come in and make it, they'd make it better.
But why would you make it better when people could, you know, you could have ambiguous footage that is, you know, totally generated by AI. I mean, AI can generate blurry images, AI can generate night vision, AI can generate essentially anything that's already existed, like really shitty 1984 VHS tapes. They can do that.
They can, but I'm telling you, I'm giving you the tape from the tape.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's just like I'm giving you the documents from the vault, just like I'm giving you information in Congress on COVID origins or what have you. What we find is what you're getting.
Okay, so now it's saying 2019, missing jail video from the first Jeffrey Epstein suit. So for the first attempt has been found. So maybe, let's put it into perspective, jails are not the most efficient, best run places. It's not like...
Or not?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
It's... Yeah.
You know, we're working with what we got.
Right.
So, and listen, this guy's not the only guy to kill himself in prison. It happens, I don't know how often.
Right.
All the time.
Even if he killed himself in prison. So if he was murdered in prison, crazy, right?
Yeah.
You could see why very powerful people wouldn't
If
want
he
to
was
talk.
murdered in segregated housing, in isolation, after being on suicide watch in a place in a detention center that I've physically been in myself, it would be fiction. It's just, in my experience, that is not doable.
It's not doable even for the most powerful and wealthiest people in the world.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think though that, like, if someone was in a position where a guy could release information that could potentially damage the most wealthy people on earth, you would have a concerted effort that's unprecedented.
Sure.
You'd have the resources that we couldn't even possibly comprehend, all pointing towards eliminating this one person that it could be done.
But, I mean, so many people have been implicated, right, already, and some of that information, what they did to Prince Andrew and everybody else is already out there. And so, that's the conspiracy stuff that me, Bongino, and the folks have to say, look, we will give you everything we can, and then we will have done our job. Also, if I had a shred, me, Kash Patel, had a shred of evidence, the Russian guy, the Jan 6 guy, the COVID origins guy, had a shred of evidence that this guy was murdered, I would be the first guy to bring this case hard and fast. And I would do press conferences every week on it.
Mm-hmm.
The first guy. That's what I'm asking people to play out to their logical conclusion. I'm not Comey. I'm not McCabe. I'm not the guy that was in the seat before. I have a wildly different background. I've been putting out the truth my entire career. Why would I risk all of it on this guy?
I believe. Absolutely. I believe. I just think that, you know, the problem is we've been fuming on this conspiracy for so long. And we love conspiracies, don't we? As a country, there's so much.
I mean, you know, they make
JFK tapes, come on. Like, release the documents. We all love them. We love them. We love UFO ones. We love everything. We love the craziest conspiracies. They're exciting. We don't want to hear that he tried to kill himself in July and then succeeded in August. And, look, I could imagine why the guy wanted to kill himself. He was going to jail for the rest of his fucking life. And in jail, sex offenders for children are not treated well.
And also, by the way, most Americans haven't, nor should they. Have you ever spent 1 minute in segregated housing? No. It's the worst. The absolute worst. Like, you and your background, you can probably do it, right? Like, you know, just in all reality, most Americans, you put them in there for 5 seconds, they're going to slam their head against the wall. Literally. They're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
I'm sure. I could only imagine. And I could only imagine this guy knowing that it's over. And what do you want to do? Do you want to
Yeah, and then
Who knows who the fuck he's working for? Let's just put that aside. Now, if you're working for, let's
Wait a
just,
minute, why is this shit
we don't
an
have
A?
to name names. We don't have to speculate. If he's working for some agency, some group, some foreign group, and they decide to target his family because he's going to jail for the rest of his life anyway. They decide to target his family if he testifies against them. I could see where if I thought that it was like I'm going to be in jail for the rest of my life, or I tell and my family winds up being killed or destroyed, or who knows? Maybe you'd say, look, the honorable thing is to end it in prison.
Honorable, cowardly thing.
Cowardly, whatever it is. Like, just
also,
decide.
at some point, that guy was going back in a gen pop. And the one thing I'll tell you about prison systems is the people they eat are child predators.
Yes.
And
Well
he
known.
was going to get it.
Well known. Yeah, and they probably would have protected him. Yeah.
You might know Harbor Freight for affordability. What you might not know is performance and durability go right along with it.
So the narrative has always been that there's video. Now, what is the chain of custody? Is there evidence that there is video? Is there evidence that it was moved around, stored, protected from people looking at it? Like,
You're going to get all that information. Like, that's literally what we're putting together. And we're going to give you every single thing we have. And that's the whole point. We can't fill gaps by making stuff up, and we're not going to do that.
and you have to be methodical.
And we have to even, that's the other thing, right? We're reviewing not just the video, we're reviewing everything as meticulously as we can, because that's what we owe the American people. That's our job. And I don't want to rush to the sticks or the podium and just say, hey, look what we found.
Right.
And then be like, oh, sorry, I forgot the 4 seconds. You know, if we missed 4 seconds, we'll be like, oh, well, it's in the 4 seconds you missed.
Right.
So, I'm
How much can you talk about what you've seen?
Not yet. Just what I told
Can
you.
you say you've seen anything?
No, that's the point.
Warning. Sentinel drones activated.
You talked about the video of the murder or the suicide. But what about the video from the island?
Oh, that's it. Sorry. So you're talking about the
Yeah.
So again, we're going to give you everything we can, and people have to remember, we're not going to re-victimize. We're not going to put that shit in.
Warning.
It's not happening.
Sentinel combat unit
You
deployed.
want to hate this word? It's fine. Again, logical layout. If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felony on an island, and I'm in charge, don't you think we should do it?
If you have access to it.
If I have it, period. If I have it.
So,
Where else would it be?
right, if you have it.
Right.
But you can't say you have it.
No, we're giving you everything we have.
So far.
Everything we have so far is...
Have you guys gone over all the video that's available?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what takes so much damn time.
Right. And is there video from the island?
Warning.
Not of what you
Elite
want.
Sentinel
The
force.
people out there have filled the void with can't wait to see X, Y, or Z.
Right, speculation.
And I'm like, here's the other thing I'm asking, right? Open. If you have information on that, call us. Tell us. The best resource we have is the American people in the world.
Right.
Give me the tail numbers. Get me the flight, get me new information, and I will run that down.
So, this narrative might not be accurate, but there's video of these guys doing this.
Exactly.
Is it possible that the video was taken and destroyed?
Well, you're talking about, decades worth of stuff, right? Remember, we have what we have pursuant to lawful search warrants and authority on the case that was done, however many years ago it was done. That's what we have. If other people have other stuff and they want to give it to us, bring it.
Have you guys reviewed everything that you have?
Almost. Yes, we have, and now we're figuring out how to
Right.
put it out.
Now, I understand that you would never re-victimize these women and show this footage, but is there footage?
Outside of... The only thing I can say right now is if there was footage of anyone doing anything else, we would have opened a case.
Is it possible that there was footage that you just will never have access to because they've already gotten rid of
I
it?
mean, anything's possible, right?
Well, there was a long time, right,
Yeah.
between the time when it was clear that Kamala lost the election and then Trump won.
Yeah. I mean, I got to
before
hear.
he got into office.
I got here 100 days ago, literally.
Right,
So,
exactly. It's just kind of crazy.
You know, so I'm doing what I can, and that's this type of stuff, like, you know, and I'm happy to talk about it and bring it up. But what I'm trying to achieve at the Bureau is not only are we doing what's in public interest, what's in great public interest, our biggest job is to defend the homeland and stop kids from dying. That's my biggest job, and that's what I'm focused on. And I think we can do all of those things, and we're doing them really well. And I think if you give us just like another 100 days, it's not a lot of time. But literally, I just hit my 100-day mark like 2 days ago.
Right.
You're going to see a ton of stuff. You're already seeing it. We just rolled out the Catholic memo, the truth about that.
What is that?
The last administration, the FBI wrote a memo targeting Catholics. Remember the Richmond Catholic memo?
I don't remember that.
Okay, so basically, there was a write-up from the FBI relying on the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is like the modern-day Fusion GPS, and basically said Catholics should be targeted as domestic terrorists. Yeah. So then Chris Wray, the former FBI director, went to Capitol Hill and testified about it. And Congress was like, wait a second, is this real? Is it predicated on actual fact? And how wide is it? Is it one office? Is it all these people across the country? Are Catholics being targeted as domestic terrorists? And what ended up happening was Ray said, oh, it's just one office, one memo, nothing to see here. Well, what we just rolled out again to Congress this week, to Chuck Grassley, who put it out, was that in fact it was multiple offices, multiple memos that were weaponizing law enforcement to target a religious group during an election cycle. And we proved it. And now everybody has read it.
Why were they targeting the Catholics?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the people that got here before I did.
Did you have any suspicion of what kind of motivation they would have to do that?
I ordered 200 hand-forged knives to my dorm room and built a Wix website to sell them. I'm Noah Rosen, founder and owner of Forged to Table Knives. Starting as a dishwasher and working my way up through the culinary industry, I knew a lot of people that would love an affordable handcrafted knife, so I saw the opportunity and built my own online empire. When someone first gets to ForgeTable.com, we want them to have a curated shopping experience. With Wix, the detail and precision we put into crafting every knife went into the website in the same way. Our website is robust, it's rich, it's graphically stimulating, and gives customers the confidence they need to order a knife and upgrade their kitchen. At Forged to Table, we're all chefs, so our blog is our creative outlet. With Wix, we're able to provide content and really good recipes that are really delicious while bringing customers into the products. Having a great platform means that I can go to bed at night. It's not just me behind the computer, it's the system that I've built and the website that's in place that we can serve 1,000 customers on the site every day, $1 million in revenue, and we're becoming a household name for chefs and cooks from all over the world. I don't just make knives, I forge my own path.
I think when you do those kinds of recipes, if you're willing to use Mickey Mouse journalism, if you're willing to use the Fusion GPS to put in the fields of the world, like the leadership at the FBI then did, then it has a chance to replicate itself. And that's what happened. I don't know if you know anything about the Southern Poverty Law Center, but they literally are the ones that sent the information to the FBI and the FBI said, oh, we'll run it up. And so that's the type of work that I think gives credibility back to the Bureau, us exposing, us giving Congress the truth, Congress coming back in and saying, hey, you actually didn't give us the high things, you gave us the documents, you gave it to the American people. And if there are criminal referrals to come out of that, then let's do that. I mean, we just had a great breakthrough this week on Fauci. So Senator Rand Paul, Senator Kennedy, I hate naming names, I always forget people, are doing a great job with us on COVID origins. And we've got multiple investigations open on that. But they had always been looking for Fauci's original phones, not original, but phones and devices he used while he was Fauci back in Trump went during COVID. And nobody had found it. So
Really?
yeah. Now look, your audience and everybody listening to it should jump to the conclusion everything's in there. We'll look at it, we'll pull it, we'll rip it, as we say, and maybe it's deleted, maybe it's not. But at least we found it, and at least now we can tell the American people we've been looking, because it is of public importance to figure out, did that guy lie? Did he intentionally mislead the world and cause countless deaths? We owe those answers to the American people. And the best evidence ever is always the people's evidence for creating it. And so now we're going to go and exploit those hard drives. But I think a victory for the American people that we broke with Congress is that we did find it. We're not done. We're still moving. And we're on the case. So whether it's Richmond Catholic memo, whether it's Fauci COVID origins, whatever becomes a great Russiagate, Crossfire Hurricane, whatever becomes of great public importance, that's a big part of what we do at the FBI too.
The Crossfire Hurricane one is bananas.
Well, that's all Russiagate. Yeah, it's completely nuts. I mean, we can do 3 days on that. I mean, that's like spent.
It's bananas. I mean, there's so many things in the past that you get it, like the Operation Fast and Furious.
Yeah, the guns.
Insane. Which led to the death of American lives.
The federal agents.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and there's just things that, like, I see that you would think I would have more uproar, even as much time I've been doing this, that don't, and things that wouldn't have, my mind would be like, no one's going to pay attention, and people are like, oh my God. And so that's part of the learning curve for me too, you know, like trying to figure out what the balance is. You know, should I be giving this so much attention, so much resources? But then when I have to call a parent because their kid's dead from fentanyl, or when I have to call a cop's family, and I call every single line of duty death that we have in this country. I call everyone's chief, and I call their families. And I'm glad that the numbers are going down in terms of how many have been killed this year versus last year.
How much have the numbers gone down?
By over 15% so far, but I want to be at 0. You know,
Right.
That's where my focus needs to be.
15